I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Tuesday, February the 23rd, 2016. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met today with visiting Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta. Kenyatta arrived in Israel yesterday for a 3-day state visit, the first by a Kenyan president since 1994. The two leaders addressed a joint press conference where Netanyahu said the relationship between the countries was remarkable. He also noted the common threats Israel and Kenya face, like the battle against militant Islamic terrorism. Kenyatta remarked that the visit was a historic one, and he said the cooperation between our countries since the time of our independence has been formidable, and we look forward that this particular trip will even strengthen those ties in the future. Earlier today, Kenyatta met with Israeli President Reuven Rivlin, who greeted him in an official welcoming ceremony at his residence in Jerusalem. The Jewish-Israeli man seen as the leader in the 2014 murder of Palestinian teenager Mohammed Abu Khadr has been deemed fit to stand trial. If you recall, the 16-year-old Abu Khadr was abducted, beaten, and then burned to death in a revenge attack for the abduction and murders earlier that summer of 3 Israeli teens by Hamas terrorists. The 2 minors involved in the Abu Khadr murders were convicted earlier this month. 30-year-old Yosef Chaim Ben David, the main suspect and only adult at the time of the killing, was found guilty of the crime back in November. However, his attorneys had presented a psychiatric opinion claiming he was not sane at the time of the crime. Israel's Channel 2 reported last night that a Jerusalem district court-appointed psychiatrist has now determined that Ben David is responsible for his actions and fit to stand trial. The new psychiatric opinion will be presented to the judges, who will then make their determination as to convicting Ben David and sentencing him accordingly. IDF forces demolished the homes earlier this morning of 2 Palestinian terrorists accused of killing 5 Israelis last year. The home of 36-year-old Raed Masalmeh in the West Bank village of Dura and that of 24-year-old Mohammed Abdel Basit al-Karoub in the village of Dir Smat near Hebron were destroyed. Masalmeh confessed to the stabbing death of 51-year-old Reuven Aviram and 32-year-old Aharon Yesiav in an attack on Jewish worshippers in Tel Aviv on November the 19th of last year. Al-Karoub shot and killed 3 people near the West Bank settlement of Alon Shvut on the same day, including American Jewish teenager Ezra Schwartz. Both Masalmeh and Al-Karoub are in Israeli custody. Home demolitions are used by the Israeli government as a deterrent to terrorists. Members of the European Parliament concluded a 5-day trip to Israel this week, led by B'nai B'rith International. The delegation included Parliament members Lars Andoktosin of Sweden, Ramona Manescu of Romania, and Davor Stier of Croatia. It emphasized the areas of education, technology, agriculture, and medicine in Israel. B'nai B'rith President Gary P. Saltzman said this mission provided an informative and vital experience that permitted members of the European Parliament to recognize that Israel is a dynamic and diverse country with a thriving economy. Saltzman said it was vital for diplomatic leaders to get accurate information about Israel and the threats it faces. The participants heard from Israeli military officers at the Gaza border about those threats. They also learned about Israeli-Palestinian cooperation while visiting a factory in the West Bank and discussed such issues as the recent labeling decision by the European Union. Canada's CIJ News reported that its parliament voted down an anti-Israel motion. By a vote of 229 for and 51 against, the Canadian Parliament passed this historic bill yesterday, which formally condemns the BDS, Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions movement, which seeks to delegitimize the State of Israel. The motion was brought on November the 18th of last year by conservative members Tony Clement and Michelle Rempel. It proposed that the House reject the Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions movement, which promotes the demonization and delegitimization of the State of Israel, and call upon the government to condemn any and all attempts by Canadian organizations, groups, or individuals to promote the BDS movement both here at home and abroad. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology's Sloan School of Management launched a new program pairing MBA students with leading Israeli companies in the areas of high-tech, biotech, clean technology, and communications. The Israel Lab program helps students gain knowledge while working on business challenges in those fields. Senior Associate Dean for Undergrad and Master's Programs at MIT's Sloan School, Jacob Cohen, said Israel is a startup nation with a diverse and growing economy. Adding, we saw an opportunity to build a country-specific action learning program that furthered our students' ability to study and learn alongside Israeli companies. And taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Tuesday, February the 23rd. At 8 o'clock, U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Human Rights Council Keith Harper discusses how America's presence on the council has helped to balance the reactionary impulses of its earlier years. At 9, Mark S. Golub sits down with journalist Peter Beinart on L'Chaim. At 10, founder and director of the Middle East Political and Information Network, Eric Mandel, talks about the sectarian divide within Islam. And coming up right after this newscast tonight at 6:30, director of the Forum on Law, Culture, and Society at NYU Law School, Thane Rosenbaum, shares what he learned in Israel during the recent 2016 Conference of Presidents trip on tonight's In the News. And that's the JBS News Update for Tuesday, February the 23rd, 2016. I'm Teisha Bader.